Hello, beautiful ones. It's me, and today we are talking to my divorce attorney, Kristen Ritchie, because we are celebrating, although we forgot our cupcakes, but we are celebrating my 1 year divorce anniversary. And I thought it would be, yes, round of applause, take a bow. I'm thriving. I thought it would be a perfect time to revisit this collaborative law model, specifically collaborative divorce that I use because I want more people to know about it since it helped and supported me and my family so much. And I want Kristen to share more of what collaborative law in general has to offer, because there are things that I didn't even know about until 45 seconds ago, before when she and I were just chatting before we started recording. So anyways, and if you have questions, I will be checking on the Facebook page. So if you have any questions with regards to divorce or collaborative law or collaborative divorce or how it works, we're going to touch on a lot of that right now, but I will also give you a chance to have your questions answered. So type those up if you wish. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Stephanie. It's so good to see you and see how wonderful you're doing.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. And I know that anniversaries in general, no matter what we're celebrating, they're a really great time for reflection. So I've been very reflective and just really appreciative of how much the process of divorce supported me in returning even more quickly than I thought was possible to a place of thriving. And self-discovery and rebuilding confidence that oftentimes can get lost a bit in the divorce process. So what I want to have you to explain to people first is there are several options if you're considering a divorce, and I would love for you to briefly describe each option and the pros and cons of them.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And at the outset, I want to be sure if anybody is consulting on divorce, if you're speaking to an attorney, be sure they're presenting all of your options. We are ethically bound and required to present all of them. So when you find an attorney pushing you in one direction and not talking about the others, that's a red flag. So, your options are mediate. Okay, that's certainly one way to go. Most people have heard about mediation. Your option is to litigate. That's sort of the default. Everybody knows that's the standard route that most people go. And there's the collaborative process, which is what you got to partake in, Stephanie. And there's differences between all of them or among all of them, right? So a mediation is a one-time event. You guys are going to sit down at a table, either with or without attorneys. You'll have a settlement facilitator who's usually an attorney, sometimes a paralegal, helping you objectively to try to come to settlement. If you don't have attorneys, you're not going to get any legal advice. If you get upset, somebody doesn't want to continue, you just leave the table and off you go into litigation. Oftentimes, I find with a one-time mediation, we're not really prepared to resolve everything. We haven't done a whole lot of homework. I'm finding more success if you're choosing mediation is to plan on some like mini mediations as a process, as opposed to just trying to sit down one day and, whoever's most exhausted at the end of the day signs, and then you almost always have a buyer's remorse. Not a whole lot of contemplation goes into it. You have your regular litigation model where you either lawyer up or you go on your own and you file in court, and all of your finances become public record. So your nosy neighbor or prospective employer can go and pull up your financial affidavit and see how much disposable income, like we all know how much disposable income Johnny Depp has every month because of his nasty divorce, right? Where your kids are going to go to school. We're going to put that in the public record. What time you're going to pick them up. Every pretty much little detail of your life is going to be out there. And at the end of the day, a judge is going to decide you're going to spend all your money preparing for this trial. Oftentimes it doesn't happen. Oftentimes people spend all kinds of money, effort, and time preparing for this trial, this war, which rips apart their relationship. And then they end up settling at the last minute. And so now you've spent all this time focusing on trial and no time focusing on the settlement, yet you're at urgently trying to settle so that the judge doesn't make the decision, the stranger who's going to hear about your life for 8 hours max. The other option is the collaborative process. collaborative process.
Well, let me
Go
pause
ahead.
you there. I am so stressed out just, just by hearing that the litigation, like there are even more reasons and more details to avoid that if at all possible. Wow. So you can go through all those hours and resources and money and time. And then, so why would it be at the very end that people are scrambling to have a settlement just because they're tired and now they're freaked out that a judge is going to make a decision that likely won't be in the best interest of their family?
Absolutely. Right. So now you've spent all this time and money, and it's almost like you're threatening the other side, right? You're playing a game of chicken. Like nobody really wants to go to trial and have a judge make these determinations for you, but it's like, who's going to veer off first? So then you find people folding into agreements that aren't necessarily equitable. It's not really right for the family. There's other things that they're thinking, I can't afford the trial, or I don't know, this judge doesn't like me. I've been to a hearing before and he said something that makes me think he doesn't like me. And there's factors that shouldn't be a part of the resolution of your family's finances and your children's whereabouts and schooling and things like that. But they're in the back of your mind and forcing you to feel like you need to settle.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm letting that go. It's just the empath absorbing all that the strain and stress of what that would be like for parents and for even people who don't have children, just going through that process. Okay, so now we get to collaborative. And so tell us about that.
So collaborative, each of the parties retains an attorney. And we want you to retain a collaboratively trained attorney, someone who's familiar with the process. You also bring on a financial neutral to help you all with your finances and in resolving everything equitably. So this person is neutral. This person is not here to take the other spouse to the cleaner or pick a higher value for a business that might help just one of the parties. It's really about what's right for the family. And then you bring on a settlement facilitator who has a mental health background. So you had a psychologist helping you, support you through the process, right?
Yes.
And we use a team approach to help you. And how did that make you feel?
It was fantastic. I honestly, I can't imagine not having had her, because her perspective, her background, her training, her understanding allowed her to guide me and also guide my ex-husband, and also keep us on track with understanding and keeping at the very center point our children and their well-being. And that's an easy thing to lose sight of for some people, because this is such an intense process, and it's a process that brings up so much emotional baggage and fear and this idea of scarcity. So she was fantastic. And we also had the benefit of consulting with her outside of the team meeting. So when I was struggling with something in particular, I could contact her and schedule a private meeting with her, knowing that she wasn't going to take my side with anything, but she was going to give me good, balanced counsel in terms of what to consider, what to think about, and help me come back to a very steady place. So that was awesome and amazing.
It's really a wonderful, and I think everybody who goes through the process really finds the benefit there, because we're not offering therapy. That's not what this person's role is, but it's therapeutic, right? We're working on building up your co-parenting skills. You guys aren't a family like you were before, but you're still a family for your children, and not just when they turn 18, like the law would provide in a courtroom. I mean, you all are going to want to go to life events together for your children forever. So I assume you found that really helpful.
Very, very helpful. And keeping that in mind, what you just said is not easy to do, because when you are in the intense experience of the breakup, it's very hard for the mind, which is overwhelmed with fear, emotions and chemicals in the brain, and disrupted sleep for a lot of people, certainly for myself, and just a lot of worry, and really it's just a lot of fear. And then you feed on that, it becomes its own cycle, and it's very hard to see past anything. It's very hard to have a global picture at all. of even what your heart wants for your family. So to have someone who is in the mental health field, and also, like you said, the financial neutral does the same thing. They are able to have a perspective that the parties can't have because they're too dug into it. And here, be open to that, listen to that. And I was given advice by our financial neutral that was provided in order to support my goal of getting through the divorce efficiently. And I'm glad I followed the advice. And I know that it was given with that person's understanding from their professional background and experience of what would help this to be the most effective and efficient. He may not give that advice to everybody in every situation, but I knew it was the right thing for him to provide to me, and really, really supported us. So yeah, it's a team. It's a team to support you through perhaps one of the most difficult times of one's life. Nobody wants to get divorced. Nobody I know. And it's really to take that on and make the commitment to do that. It's a commitment to yourself. At least it was for me, a commitment to myself to recognize that this isn't healthy for our family because we can't grow. I can't grow. I can't feel myself. Therefore, my children are also stuck in the process of that as well. It will be healthier for us to restructure the family. So that meant divorce. And there's a lot of loss and grief involved with that because it's a loss of a relationship as you knew it. And that's hard. So all parts of it are hard. And the collaborative model really supported it being as supportive, as smooth as it could possibly be. It's not to say that it made it easy. It's never easy to get divorced, but I cannot recommend this process enough because I know what it can be. And I know people who started their divorce process before I did over a year ago, and they are still in it. They are still not divorced. And their hearts are just shredded because of what they are experiencing, the antagonism and the endless pursuit of what money isn't worth it, like your relationships with each other and your children and the rest of your families that at one point in time have been cohesive and now they are shifting gears as well. That's the important piece. If that's the important piece to you, then collaborative is a great way to go.
I couldn't agree more.
So let's say, Kristen, that let's say a spouse knows that their soon-to-be ex-spouse does want to have a little bit of a fight. They want to intimidate, say, or threaten. And so that person is leaning more towards the traditional model. What might someone who wants a more collaborative experience say to that person that would encourage them to see it differently?
Well, I think that the first thing is to try to always come, if there are children, from the perspective of the children, okay? Because it's not about, it shouldn't be about the two parties and what they want to do to each other. I had someone just today ask me if he could tell on his spouse. This isn't a collaborative case, but wanted to tell on his spouse because she's seeing a coworker at her job, and this would have, ramifications for her. And I just said, first, why? Other than retaliation, you're upset because, she's obviously seeing someone else and moved on. But how does that help you? They have young children, right? What if she's going to lose her job? Is that good? Now you're hurting their mother, right? Is that how is this going to benefit? And so see it from your children's eyes. What's the best if you can bring it back to the children? And I think, and you mentioned that too, Stephanie, that the mental health professional helped you with that a lot. Then you can see, okay, yeah, this isn't going to benefit anyone but my own personal need right now, which is not what I need to be focusing on. The other thing is, even if there aren't children, don't spend all your money on a fight. Like, it's a bad business decision, right? Like, let's take our money and keep it for ourselves, our family, our future. Don't go spending it on some attorney that's going to ratchet up all your emotions and get you into this war And now you've spent, at the end of the day, you're going to be upset about it. And there's a law of diminishing returns with it too. You can spend all kinds of money for what? What have you gained? Nobody wins when you go to court. It just doesn't happen. So I would recommend that the party interested in collaborative suggest highly that the other spouse go and speak with a collaboratively trained attorney. You can find them on choosecollaborative.com, locate a professional. There's, everyone on there is trained, at least in basic, and many of us in advanced. Some of us are accredited collaborative professionals, which I think is a new thing, Stephanie, since your divorce was. So now we can become accredited. Ask your spouse to go and speak, do a free consultation, right? How can it hurt? Educate yourself. Education can't hurt. If you still aren't interested, fine, but it can't hurt to go and get the information.
Beautiful. Perfect. And can you speak to the differences in timelines? Because I have the benefit of being divorced in less than 3 months, literally from beginning to end. I also had the benefit of being divorced during a pandemic, which meant that I got divorced on Zoom, all the meetings on Zoom, plus my actual last hearing with the judge, last and only hearing with the judge was Zoom as well, and took about 3.5 minutes from beginning to end. So is it still that way, or are things being shifted back into in-person meetings in the court? And can you speak to the difference in the traditional time frame versus the collaborative model?
Sure. Very good point. Yeah. And the pandemic, the courthouse is shut down for a little bit. And in Palm Beach, they were great about getting us up on Zoom so we could continue moving as we needed to. However, the courts are so backlogged. We're getting set for trial where we're completely ready to go. We could try the case tomorrow, but we're getting set next year, spring of next year. There's just too many cases. And so the court only has so much room on their docket to provide time for these cases. So yeah, a lot of people are sitting for years, more than even a year in divorce cases, because even if you're, it takes a while to get ready, right? You got to gear up for the war. There's a lot that we have to do, depositions and motions and discovery requests, subpoenas. So you spend all that money, all that time, and then you get set for trial, 6-8 months. Then you get to trial. A lot of times you don't even finish. Now you've got to be continued 3 months from now because there's no time to continue you. In the collaborative setting, we're still doing things virtually. So we can move your case along as quickly as the slowest participant, right? And most of the time, the hardest part was just getting all 6 of our calendars to match up. It wasn't because we didn't want to move it forward. And, just a reminder, we do those 2-hour team meetings and we keep them 2 hours by design. We stick to the agenda. We don't exhaust anybody. If something new comes up, we'll put it on the next agenda. And we make sure we're making progress. And yeah, your divorce got done in under 3 months, and that's not uncommon. I mean, most of our collaborative divorces are completed within 3 to 6 months, all the way from signing your participation agreement to final judgment. And some of our judges aren't even requiring an appearance. We just submit paperwork and you're done.
Wow, another really good reason to go this route. Yeah. That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very, very glad to hear that. And it speaks really to what's your goal. If your goal is your own mental health, then the collaborative model is the best option for that. If your goal is efficiency, then the collaborative model is the best model for that. If your goal is ongoing as best as possible relationships with all those involved, collaborative model is the best model for that. So brilliant. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to ask or share. Just speaking to those 2-hour team meetings, so much got accomplished in that amount of time. And it might sound like a long time, but in the scheme of things, it's not, because there are so many details that need to be ironed out. And what I appreciated is that in this model, the team would check in on me during these meetings. There was an understanding of this being difficult, challenging, very emotional. And even though I might have seemed okay on the outside, there was space for Kristen, my attorney, or even our mental health professional, neutral, to come in and say, Stephanie, how's that sitting with you? Do you feel okay with that? Are you comfortable with that? Would you like to have more time to consider that? I never felt pressured. In fact, if I ever said to Kristen, I I don't feel ready to sign this right now, she would say, then you take your time. When you are ready, you go there. And if not, you read it, and I'll be here if you have questions for me. So I did not feel this enormous pressure on my shoulders to hurry it up. My desire was to do it efficiently because I knew I'd be able to breathe afterwards. So that is what I will say to that. There was a lot of attention to the individual's experience during the process too, and making sure that they were fully okay and understanding of what was going on. Sometimes it's not easy to understand the language, which I really appreciated. Kristen, there's plenty of time for you to explain things to me, especially say like the financial aspect of things. Some of us don't have numbers coming easily running around our heads and knowing the quick answers to everything. Some of us spend more time in the ethers. So, and that's another gift I was able actually to bring to this experience, because a funny story that I like to share is that sometimes during our meetings, my ex-husband and I would be in separate Zoom rooms, me with my attorney, him with his, and then the neutrals would bounce back and forth. Say the accountant would come back and forth and say, well, so-and-so would like to do this. How do you feel about that? And then the person could respond, and then they'd bounce back to the other room. Well, we're getting closer in negotiation here. What do you think about this? And that let us not have to be overly face-to-face, especially during the stickier processes of disentangling financially, which is rough. And so during one of our moments of separate time where Kristen and I were just hanging out, talking about snorkeling and boating and the ocean, I asked her, she noticed a book behind me on my shelf and had the same book. And it was about animals and the significance of different animals on our planet and in our lives, their symbolic significance. So it reminded me of this deck of oracle cards that I have that are spirit animals. And I have a dozen oracle decks because of what I do professionally. And I asked her if she'd ever heard of these, and she said, no, what is that? So I introduced my divorce attorney to oracle cards during the time that we were waiting for the process to continue, just chatting and making small talk. I pulled a card showing her how it works. The card was a manatee. Of course, we were talking about ocean and water. And the message was so perfect for the moment that she and our jaws just dropped, right, Kristen? We were like,
chills.
What? And it was about lay down your sword. This is not a fight that you need to fight. And what a great reminder, right? From manatee, from spirit, from just universal energy to keep in mind what's important here. And the fight itself is not important. The outcome and the peace that I wanted as the outcome was important. So you just never know. If you get Kristen as your attorney and you happen to be spiritual and you're in my community, you have just scored big. And if you don't get her for whatever reason, you're not in this area of South Florida, then try it anyways, because I didn't know till we started conversing that she was so open-minded. And sometimes we tend to think that, certain professions have only a closed-minded or a left-brained perspective on things, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we get people who are super balanced. They use both sides of their brain, and I'm really grateful for that about you, Kristen.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I really love that story. I mean, it was just amazing. And I like to tell it too and rethink on it and see how I can recreate and try to help, future prospective clients with that, that type of thing. So got to be open-minded for sure.
Absolutely. Well, do you want to quickly tell people like the name of your business and also what else is possible through collaborative? Because we're speaking mostly of divorce, but you were telling me about some other options too. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Life
would.
planning,
Thank you.
is that what you called it?
Yeah, collaborative life planning. This is we're expanding the collaborative model to try to help more people. And this is, people who are looking to get married and maybe they're thinking about a prenuptial. But this is so much more than that. We put the team together and we start talking about things like your finances, your budgeting, savings. What do you plan to do in retirement? I mean, we see a lot of people now divorced because one thought we were going to travel, one thought we were going to just relax, how you want to rear your children, things that people don't think about it, private school, public school. Good to have these conversations beforehand. There's nothing romantic about a prenuptial, but oftentimes they're highly recommended. And it's a good idea to plan ahead. And even if you don't end up with the agreement, just having these conversations in advance with the legal and the financial aspect, because I think the research is pretty clear. A lot of divorces, are the result of financial, disputes. And so just thinking ahead about those things can really help. It's like put the work up front a little bit, and then we like to help you have a happy marriage. And then hopefully you never need that prenup, right?
Yeah. I happen to think prenups sound very sexy.
You're the first person that said that to me, Stephanie.
You can quote me on that. I feel like there's enough space for discord and disagreement. People are coming from vastly different backgrounds almost all the time. And now we're asking ourselves to blend as a couple and then perhaps blend as a family and create children or bring children in. So having even more clarity that you both agree to, that both parties feel good about, that's totally sexy. Then you don't have to worry about that and you can really just enjoy the actual relationship. I love it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love that too.
Well, thank you so much. I checked, there's not questions right now, but people can reach out to Kristen. What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, give me a call, 561-392-4400. Happy to chat.
Awesome. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. And thank you for celebrating my 1-year divorce anniversary and thriving with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me be a part of the happy times. I love to see the happy times.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care, Kristen. Thanks.
You too.